here we are, 20 odd years later, many in between. And Trevor has moved on and really built some exciting connections, and we're busy on some projects together. So without any further ado, Trevor, if I missed out anything or you want to reframe it in a better way, over to you. I'm going to put up the slide and then you start talking.
Thanks, JC. Appreciate that. So the slides haven't come up my side, Jasper.
No, I'm just going onto it now.
Okay.
And then, can you see it, Trevor?
Yeah, I can see it. That's fine.
And we're going to go into the slideshow. There we are.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jasper, and everyone, the virtual trade fair. Thanks for the chance for me to just come and share a few thoughts, and really the title and those columns should each have a title on them. The first column says privilege, the second says poverty, the third says reset, and the last says rethink. And really the conversation I want to have today is the opportunity to reinvent ourselves and our businesses through the experiences that we've had so far in 2020. And I think this virtual trade fair is one of those experiences. So kudos to you guys there at the Four Ways Chamber for putting it together. Jasper, yeah, I think just bang into the next slide, the bio, just so we can give a little bit of the journey. You'll see Kingdom Guides is a company that I'm involved in. It really is a business that is a function or has come out of a philosophy of mine called Eurotessa. And Eurotessa is really about unconventional, realistic economic transformation and empowerment. And it really is broadly defined. And Eurotessa, which is the holding company of Kingdom Guides, only has one mission in South Africa, and that mission is to make South Africa great. So it's quite a big, hairy, audacious mission, but it's really all about community. And I think that when I started this journey some 20 odd years ago, and I met you, Jasper, the one place we always connected was on this community thing. And as we've journeyed into your 60s and my 50s, so we've found ourselves with a number of collaborations that are unpacking themselves. And if you can just pop to the next slide, JC, we can have a look at what really I think it's all about. And at Kingdom Guides, we seriously think that if you can define your purpose, you will build your wealth. And that wealth is not necessarily material or financial. It's a combination of emotional, of spiritual, of wellness, of relational, and then obviously the givens of financial. And so the Kingdom Guides, we see ourselves kind of as coaches in this journey, and we've got 4 pillars in our business. The first is education. The second is financial and financial services. The third is in property, and the last is in agriculture. And inside of those 4 pillars, it's all about community. And I think half of the beauty of the journey that we're all on is how do we learn stuff we don't know, and how do we unlearn the stuff that we do know that's really not assisting us in moving forward. And I've been incredibly blessed, not only with all you guys there, Ivan and Trevor and the late Vic and you, Jasper, with the chamber, but if you can pull up the slide of these chaps. So these chaps are the guys that really rock my world. And I want to talk a little bit about the reinvention that's gone on between the 3 of us in our business as Kingdom Guides over the last 2.5 years, but more importantly over the last 86 days. Hard to believe that we day 86 of this lockdown. And the first thing is that you may or may not be able to see, but all these people are smiling. We're having fun. We have as a foundational belief that if we're not having fun, we will never make a difference. And so I'm that chap there on the left with the red face mask, with a beautiful woman in the painting behind that is also socially distancing from me, and she's wearing her mask. My partner Sichaba is in the screen to the right of me. Sichaba is an academic. Primarily, he is the chair of the Da Vinci Institute, and he is the most recent ex-CEO of the Marketing Association of South Africa. And the chap underneath both of us, we got him down there because he's from the south. He's from Cape Town. His name is Nigel Adrianse. And the three of us make up the directorship and shareholding in a business called Kingdom Guides. And this Kingdom Guides really has those four pillars that underpin the thinking of Kingdom Guides. And just to revisit those are education, financial services, property, and agriculture. And in each of them, we talk to community. And I thought I'd just give a bit of insight to what we're doing in those four different columns under community, and then we can open up to a couple of questions and share a little bit more. But the one thing that binds the three of us is we are all deeply rooted in education. So my Bachelor of Science was followed up with a diploma in education. As I said to you, Sichaba is the chair of a tertiary institute, the Da Vinci Institute. And Nigel has a passion for education, and in particular, education around the property sector. And we'll talk a little bit more about the property sector just now. But what we've seen with education and the way it works over the last 90 odd days in South Africa and around the world, I'd never even heard of Zoom at the beginning of this year. I thought Zoom was what happened when you jumped in your buddy's Porsche. You just dashed off at a Zoom pace. And yet today, here we are. It's standard operating procedure. You've got the fire on in the background. You've got some comfortable clothing on. You haven't had to drive anywhere. And yet we're connecting around the world. And the first thing that happened is we decided to adopt Zoom early, and we meet 3 times a week online. And we use a couple of new technologies, some that we've known a little bit about, but some that we've never known about, likes of ClickUp and these beautiful project management things. But let's talk about education for a moment. I've got 4 kids. They're my why. And my eldest son's finished studying, but when the lockdown started, he had to start doing his sales in an online environment, and he sells office automation, very different sort of way to sell office automation. While my eldest daughter, she was at Stellenbosch University in her final year, and in lockdown we chose to bring her back up to Johannesburg. And amazingly, all of a sudden, she didn't need to be on campus. She didn't need to stay in her residence. She didn't need to attend lectures, because the Stellenbosch educational institutions were quite quick on the draw, and they got everything up and online. And with where she is staying, there's great access to connectivity, and she's blessed to have a MacBook and an iPad and an iPhone. And so online and access became something quite common to those of us that have privilege. The concern really is about to those who don't have as much privilege, who don't have the connectivity, that don't have the devices. And it's one of those things that if it disturbs you enough, you start asking how can we make changes? And it's led to a very interesting and exciting period over the last 30 odd days. And we're getting to the stage where we have a national broadcaster who has come to understand that their footprint allows this access to those that are possibly not as privileged as those of us that have DSTV and Netflix, but have access to the SABC channels. And we have engaged as Kingdom Guides with two leading content providers in South Africa. They're both in the PSG stable, so they're well capitalized, they're household names. They are the Kira Schools guys, as well as the Optimi Holdings Group. And we've put together a solution from grade R to grade 12 to take education mainstream online with the SABC. And you would never, ever have been able to have this conversation with the SABC and their board in the previous years, just because there was no need. But SABC's revenues have been dwindling, and they need to find new ways to generate revenue. They need to have new ways to compete with the likes of MultiChoice and Topset and ETV and the likes. And it's properly exciting because as the schools start going back, we're seeing more and more parents, particularly in the privileged side, not being that privileged anymore. They've lost their jobs. They're on half pay. The kids have actually been at home with them and have worked out how to engage with this technology differently. And so there is a whole new methodology in the learning community. And the opportunity presents itself for entrepreneurs to reinvent themselves in the way that they teach. And we are busy paying professionals to develop content for us, for our different grades, from grade R. You okay there, Jasper? You can hear us? Okay. Right through to grade 12. But the really exciting stuff is a thing called Second Chance and a thing called the Big Blue Button. And Second Chance is where guys haven't been able to finish their schooling. And they have not managed to get a matric, and now they're in their early 20s. And we have this opportunity to have people come back and do matric online, which is magnificent. And the Big Blue Button is a virtual classroom, catering for 2,000 kids at a time, where you can do extra lessons and the like. So technology has been a massive part of this disruption and innovation that's going on in this time. And when I look at my 2020 kickstart and my what it's going to look like, I first look back at the last 2 decades, and I don't know if you recall the 1999 epidemic we had called Y2K. You just didn't have to wear a mask for it, but we were all certain that it was going to lead to global crash, loss of all our data, and we reinvented ourselves back then. So this foresight of the future is really what the likes of Sechaba and Nigel have assisted me in putting into a document which we're now sharing with our partners. So that's really what we've been up to in the education side of things. I'll revisit education when we get to the property pillar. But let's talk about financial services just for a moment. This financial services pillar in South Africa, we've got a massive problem with financial inclusion and financial literacy. The likes of the works that Jasper has been doing with GIG and his cooperative and their financial literacy and the move from struggle to stability to success and significance is just a wonderful journey that I've been on with them. But we've had an opportunity to engage at a mass level here with early adopter products, with banking products, and with early financial services products. And the community that we've engaged with here is the churches outside of the ZCC, which is quite an interesting place because they are not small numbers, and they have very keen structures. And the value that can be added now, because church has changed as we know it. We can now go to church where we can social distance ourselves and gather up to a maximum of 50 people. But these churches, they don't do church in 50s and 100s. They do church in 150,000, 200,000, 2 million at a time. And they have these massive conferences. And they've been very good revenue generators for the bishops. And now this is no longer so. And collecting revenue from your churchgoers is not as easy when they're not coming together. So there's been a move for us to assist them bring technology into their communities and to innovate in terms of products. And it's allowing the church and its church members to reinvent themselves and to create businesses inside of the church, where members are now assisting collect member data, and they're being remunerated for that, and there are revenue shares along the product lines. And I just look up there behind your shelf, Jasper, and I see your GNLD, and so we're bringing these sort of opportunities down to communities as simple as church communities. Let's just talk about the property pillar for a moment and what's been happening in the property space in terms of how we're reinventing what's going on in the business of property. Again, coming back to Nigel, I don't know if you want to just put up that slide again, Jasper, just because Nigel's wearing a proper visor there. And the reason he's wearing that proper visor is because he deals with a crowd called the URK. The URK stands for United Royal Kingships, and it's the 10 kings of South Africa and their base of community. So they are driven by the TLC, which is the Traditional Leaders Council, of which there are 830 odd traditional leaders councils around South Africa. And the United Royal Kingships have around 30 million members in their greater community across the Pedi, the San, the Zulu, the Xhosa, and the other 6 kingships that are included in that space. But the exciting thing is that they have now been grouped and formalized, and what they've realized is they have access to 16 million hectares of land. And inside of that land, there are massive parcels of really good agricultural land, which can be broken into arable and grazing. And so we've embarked and engaged on. Nigel is not only the CEO of Kingdom Guides Properties, but he is also the CEO of URK Holdings Property Company. And we've got pledges for 1.6 million hectares of land for us to engage in terms of how do we beneficiate land differently? How do we create food security for South Africa? How do we develop agripreneurs? And how do we change the supply chain in terms of the way we currently get the food that we grow to market? So Nigel is all about changing the landscape of property ownership in South Africa. And I said to you, I'll talk a little bit about his education. He runs a fund that we started 3 years ago called the Enterprise Development Property Fund. And it's a magnificent initiative. We are in our 3rd year. It's a 3-year course that is being offered. It used to be offered physically only, and in Johannesburg and in the Cape. But with COVID, it went online. So now anyone can join the EDPF Academy online, and they can, if they have a passion for property, they can learn about the 14 disciplines that are included in property. And he's doing a magnificent job from the perspective of ensuring that we transform the landscape of South Africa at an ownership level. And then the last pillar is agriculture. And agriculture is a huge opportunity for South Africa in terms of job creation. Not just in terms of job creation, but in value creation. I think the city slicker is so used to our instant this, instant that, and yet you can't pop a seed in a glass and have a carrot arrive for you to chew on in the next 3 minutes. It's a process to get your carrot, and to get to your, as much as we can have instant coffee, you've got to grow that bean on a tree. That takes some time. And really what we've been focusing on in Kingdom Guides is how do we reinvent the agricultural space, and how do we partner with the likes of the URK and their communities, their 830 odd traditional leaders councils, to bring value to the land that they've got and the people that they've got around them that are so desperately looking to participate in the economy, to be financially included and to be economically included. And again, it is all about entrepreneurship, innovation, disruption, and technology. And how are we doing for time? Yes, but I didn't put up a... Okay.
So you're okay, you can go.
Okay, so just to then wrap that up before we start taking some questions, and we have a look at this global economic impact that what we've been experiencing in this year so far has had, and as it unfolds, there's certain truths that are going to remain truths, as much as we're finding what the untruths are behind all of this that's going on. The truth is we will always need food, and we will always need education, and we will always need banking products and the like. And the foundation of wealth creation is from those three, and property. And it's about how deeply we are prepared to share, and to share with the communities around us. And I've had a couple of beautiful takeaways from some of the sessions I've punched into. The first one is act. I loved it. Action changes things. So the question is, how do we act collectively and collaboratively to bring about the change that we want? And as Lee says, and Wisdom's art, it's who we become in this journey of new learning, as we unlearn stuff that that has sometimes complicated us previously, and how, as we reflect, we work out what is the difference that we want to make in our lives and in the lives of others. And Jasper, maybe we want to just take a question or two, and then we can talk a bit about the 6 disciplines and how we can reinvent ourselves in those personal disciplines of the emotional space, the physical space.
TC, don't you want to just finish off with this slide you had?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks, Jasper. So really, it's a time for all of us to actually stand up and just be brave. We've spoken about failing forward and failing fast, and and it really is, it's time to be brave enough to fail faster and fail forward quicker, and to be bold. You don't understand the ability or the options that are now open to us. If you had told me that I'd be engaging with the board of the SABC in January to bring a online education platform solution to 11 million households in South Africa, I would have said that will take me another 10 years of my life. Not going to go there. But here it is, and it's happening. We, in our education space, we've had Sichaba running digital conversations every night through the entire lockdown. We have had audiences of up to 400 people where we've interviewed most of the ministers of South Africa, from a what do we do to reinvent our relationships with you as government, and our business as entrepreneurs. We've had MECs of health on. We've had the CEOs of the Joburg property company, and we would have battled to get to them previously, and now we have access to them. So really, it's be bold, and then.
All right, so we're going to start. So I'm sure you have lots of questions because Trevor has covered a wide territory. But Trevor, now first.
Well, clearly, I want to ask. So, what do you need? Where's the opportunity? You're a fantastic connector of all dots, Trevor Carty. And sometimes I think that you have them all covered. But when you're talking of scale such as this, what is it that you're looking for? What's missing? And where can we plug into these opportunities?
Trevor, thanks for that. And it's so critical for us that we have questions like that answered. So let's start with education, Trevor. We need content. We need professional teachers that can provide us with content for our slots with the SABC. We've got 3,600 slots of education content that need to be filled. Curo's got great content, but they don't have their teachers always available. So we're looking to the well-heeled educator to make themselves avail themselves for us to. We have a broadcasting business called Uhuru Studios, and so we've got facilities to broadcast and to make recording. But today, every man sitting there at home is a broadcaster. Look at us. I mean, you're in your 20X hat. I can see you broadcasting, and you're asking the right questions. The question is, how do I find these guys? How do we pay them? How do we engage with them? We're chatting now with Jasper about how do we repurpose the likes of Eagle's Nest, some of those hotel rooms into dedicated broadcasting, live studios. How do we use the conferencing facilities to bring that content material in? So the first thing is we're looking for educators who may be sitting at home, that may be retired, that have got years and years of great material and experience, and they're looking for ways to supplement and reinvent themselves and their businesses, Trevor. So I think from the education space, I think that's for us critical. In the financial services space, the amount of financial literacy material that's out there that needs collation into coherent bite-sized chunks is equally important. How do people become data capturers for us? We need to capture the membership details of about 14 million churchgoers in the 4 church groups that we have contracted with. So it's how do people engage with us to come in and reinvent themselves and build themselves into the businesses that we're building. And then in the property side, the city of Johannesburg has just been captured by Grayton himself again in this time. But they've got 29,000 buildings that they have asked us to assist them bring into the media space. Again, so how do we do that? Where do we find those capabilities of people who want to reinvent themselves, or maybe out of a corporate space because of what's happened, and yet they are passionate about property, they're passionate about media, they're passionate about digital. The Johannesburg Property Company has a stated intention to build a New York City style media place like Times Square. They need help, but we are uncovering the opportunities with the leadership, and we will find through collaborations like this and the online platforms the people who want to participate. And then the agriculture, that's probably the most significant of the lot, because we've got so many people in these traditional rural council areas that they really have got time on their hands, and we're busy developing models on how do we get land into their hands and seeds into their hands and learning into their hands so that they can develop a product, a food security product that we can then assist them take to market through our supply chain, and the relationships we've got there. So yeah, we've got technologies there, Trevor, that we need people to be assisting us with. So we've got urban agriculture. Yep, is that a hand up finger?
Yep, and the obvious question, is there budget for this, or is this all got to be developed from scratch? Do they need input, or you needing ideas? It would be ideal if there was budget available for this, obviously.
Yeah, agreed. So it would be spectacular and significant if there was budget available. So here's the thing about small crises like we've gone through. We've made 500 billion rands worth of budget available for this short-term situation. And what we've been doing when we've been engaging with the CEOs and the MECs and the ministers is been talking about these resources and how do we now access these resources post what's going on here. And it's become top of mind. So we're also becoming cleverer, Trevor. For example, with the SABC, we are entering into what's called an AFP. It's an advertiser-funded program. So your education programming is funded by the underlying advertising that goes with it. So yeah, it's about developing new models. How do we go to the retailers to say, hey, instead of spending the money on moving your groceries from Durban down to the Eastern Cape Spa, how do we take those resources and apply them to local traditional community areas and grow that produce there, and save that money that you were using in logistics and distribution to create this. And then there's two magnificent pieces of South African legislation that we miss entirely. The first is called the ETI program. It's an employment tax incentive. It's available to all corporates in South Africa. We've partnered with a very large ETI provider, crowd called Advance. And Advance has 160 campuses around South Africa, and they engage with in excess of 110 corporate South African companies. And that's only for ETI money. And then we've got this ED and SD money and CSI money. And it's really about getting it deployed properly, Trevor, and accessing it through the SETAs. There's no shortage of money. I mean, we have seen this government pull rabbits out of hats. I mean, it's a little sad that the rabbits have to stand in queues to get access to the money, but that's just while we solve the problems. And we have got some really big problems which have come to the fore, and we're building some really big solutions. So we need big partners. And yeah, so we have engaged with about 20 of the top 40 listed companies for participation in terms of where their core focuses are in the Kingdom Guide's 4 pillars. And you may or may not have seen some of our top 20 companies over this period have been called conglomerates and been told that they have to break up and unbundle which these are magnificent opportunities for us. It's the reason we've chosen some of the partners we have in the different pillar streams, because they've got challenges, and they need to know, how do we deploy our balance sheets and our cash flows, and how do we understand that it doesn't matter. We may have been privileged before, but we now have this opportunity to reset and rethink everything, and shareholders are starting to demand it. We've seen our employees starting to demand it. We're seeing society demand it. So it's about having a solution. Yeah.
There's another question coming in from Chris, which might then add value to the conversation where you're taking it.
Will I be able to catch this under chats? Is it in the chat box or?
No. Here it is. Chris,
okay.
Over to you.
Thanks, Jasper, and thanks, Trevor.
Hi, Chris.
Very insightful what you're saying. So we'd just by way of introduction. So, I've been in the entrepreneurial development space for the last 24 years, and we've particularly specialized in deeply rural areas and working with deeply rural people in terms of getting them to start businesses that are going to change their lives from the point of view of getting themselves out of their own trap of poverty. And we've done it literally by saying, you know what? You need to be pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, my fellow. And so we've had literally hundreds and thousands of businesses created off a capital base of 100 Rand that they've basically come up with themselves. And currently we're working with a project partner. So we, first of all, let me just say this, we never work alone. We always work with strategic partners. So for instance, those church groups that you've got and you talked about, we'd love to offer our services to them to set them up so that they can start training their constituency and their people to start and run their own business, because that's our business model. We're not a training company. We're actually an empowerment company or an empowerment organization. And so literally to get people, you take a case of the whole agricultural side that you were talking about a few minutes ago. Love it. We're working with a project partner right now with something called pop-up greenhouses, where literally they have this little structure that goes up, and they can literally grow their spinach and their carrots and this type of thing. And that is such a great idea to be able to, pop down to the local spa and say, here's 5 bunches of spinach, here's 3 bunches of carrots, and this type of thing. So we've got programs for different levels of learner. One of our programs is completely in isiZulu, so the program can be trained in isiZulu, and our whole way of doing things is what we're wanting to translate into the many different languages that are offered in South Africa. So there may be synergy between what you guys are doing and what we're doing, and so maybe afterwards we should get together and across the Zoom waves and have a chat and just see where the synergy lies and how it can be of help to get you to or empower you to achieve more of the goals you want to do.
Chris, thank you for that. And it's really forums like this that allow us to uncover gems like yourselves. The depth of deep rural that we have through the URK is significant. We've been chatting with the likes of Lima, and they are quite significant in the agricultural space in deep rural. And yeah, most definitely. So I've made a file note here. And what is your surname, Chris? I'll just look it up on the platform just now, and I'll send you. Black. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
So
so awesome.
Is up there, DBSP, Dynamic Business Startup Partners. We have a stall on the in that side of
the virtual fair. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, correct.
I will definitely come finding you, and I will add you to our agricultural workflow and to our entrepreneurial workflow.
Yeah, fabulous.
Look forward to engaging there. Thank you. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. Great.
Good,
Thanks,
good.
Jasper.
All right. Is there another hand up from someone who wants to add a comment or connect with Trevor? I can tell you what, he's busy with such big projects. Or it's actually amazing what he's achieved with a small team of people, but through networking at the right levels, our doors are opening up, and you're most welcome to connect. Let me check there.
Yes, but I see there's a question from Mpuseng, just asking how educators can connect with Trevor.
Thanks, Ivan, and thanks for the question, Mpuseng. You can email me directly, or you can give me a tinkle. Ivan, I don't know if you can knock up my email address or put my phone number on there. So it's trevor@financepartners.co.za. If you want to WhatsApp me, my WhatsApp number is 081 325 7514. And if people want to call me directly, my hotline number direct to the non-Zoom is 081 575 3084.
So, Trevor, could you just repeat your WhatsApp number again, please?
Yeah, sure. My WhatsApp number is 081 325 7514. Thanks, Trevor. Now, thank you. Yeah, okay, great.
All right. Chris, was there another? Are you happy? Can we move on to some other speakers?
I am, yes. Yeah, thanks.
All right, good. Trevor, have you finished your question to Trevor Nell? Have you finished your questions to Trevor Carty? Or do you want to add some more?
Just coming on board, no. I always like to get an idea of where the money is, because as Scott Kundle opened up with yesterday, no time to stuff around today. So the boys, we've got so many opportunities, so many projects. We don't want to go and waste our time in projects that are never going to deliver. So I really want to push Trevor to the point where he says, okay, here's where the money is, here's where the need is, here's how we connect those dots. Trevor knows I don't like to mess around.
Okay, so thank you. And I knew it was coming, so I've very deeply prepared for this one, Trev. Okay, so in the financial services space, we get paid for every account that we open. In the financial literacy space, we get paid for every person that comes onto the financial literacy program. In the rewards program, we get paid for every affinity purchase made through our communities. In our uniquely South African wills business, where we generate a will in all 11 official languages of South Africa, there is a fee generated for every will collected. There is a fee generated for every estate that comes in through the wills that we've got. Our financial services products have a revenue share model through our financial partners and insurance companies. Our telco, data and electricity solution providers have a fee that we collect that we share revenue with. And then there's the really exciting stuff, the stuff that takes a little bit longer to get off the ground, but it's the products that we distribute. Let's call them spiritual products. They are things that these churches consume in huge amounts. They are things like cooking oil, mealie meal, milk, sugar, salt, coffee, Vaseline, candles, and uniforms. And so we are building supply chain relationships to manufacture and distribute in these places. So that's where the money is. How do we unlock it together is the real question. And you unlock it with collaboration of existing infrastructure. And you then white label appropriately.
Okay, so if anyone wants to step in, please, I don't want to hog the platform, but if no one steps in, Trevor, what have you seen happen with the launch of this particular platform from nowhere at the beginning of lockdown to where it is right now? And do you see a potential application for a platform of this style to actually help you in your 4 projects that you mentioned?
Yeah, Trevor, that's it's unbelievable how many things I've never seen before that I have seen. And so yeah, the platform is spectacular. I think the engagement opportunity is very wide. I think it needs to get traction of a larger audience as soon as possible. So my question to you is, how do you get a broader audience in, like connecting with us in digital conversations and those databases that we're talking to of 200 to 400 people every night? I think the reality is we've not wanted to reinvent the wheel, but we've taken hands with global partners. So, for example, we own the license for Unifinity in South Africa. Unifinity is a global blockchain solution for education that digitally certifies every qualification you ever get. We have a number of incidents in South Africa where we may or may not over-exaggerate how educated we are. And this just helps track that. But in the back end of that, we've been building an online platform that can cope with 10,000 people at a time. So, yeah, Trev, the amount of new stuff that is out there, and it's only a function of how well you connect to the globe as to how you can do it. You know, we have been having conversations with a very large satellite manufacturer, ex-South African chap, because we need to get rural broadband sorted. We've had 10 telecommunications ministers over the last decade, and we haven't been able to get to spectrum. And yet now we're having those conversations. There is so much going on. So the platform is spectacular. I think the opportunity is to develop more.
Don't pat us on the back, send the check.
No. Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. No.
And then how do we make money out of it together?
Exactly. That's what everyone wants to know, and that's what we must tie down as quickly as possible. No time to mess around. Thanks, Jasper. Thanks, Trevor.
All right, guys. Chris, you got your hand up again.
Yeah, thanks, Jasper. Trevor, I fully agree with you and applaud the use of technology. We've gone that route completely, where not only can the training programs be delivered, in fact, this is my training room right here, so train right from where I am. But we've also got an online platform for people to run their businesses from the point of view of either researching a business, well, not either, it's and I suppose one can say, where one can actually research a business and then actually through an ERP system, which we've just incorporated onto our platform, they can actually physically run their businesses online as well. I do agree with you in terms of the connectivity in rural areas where the signal is so bad that learners find it very difficult to be able to connect. But hopefully as we go and as we twist the arm of the big boys like Vodacom and MTN, if we can, to get them to provide cheaper data in the communities, we can get the job done a lot faster and a lot quicker. And I think that as if we have a lot of people joining forces and actually starting to put pressure, and particularly with government on board, put pressure on the big guys, perhaps we can get the data costs even further down. And the coverage even further. I just think about the place on the west and on the Cape Flats called Delft. There was a guy called Charles George, and Charles set it upon himself to cover the entire of Delft with internet coverage, and he achieved it. And so, we can by working together kind of achieve this whole place where, or the whole space where one can actually get the networking side up, where people can start to learn virtually, because that's definitely the thing of the future.
Friends,
That's
where
where
I have to cut down. Yeah, we're running out of time.